Let's go to our reporter, Slindolo Masigani, who's been following proceedings not only today, but throughout this specific trial. She joins us now from the High Court in Pretoria. Slee, this trial has so many legs that keep growing. We've postponed this time because there's a whole new application now from Advocate Teffo.
Yeah, so we've moved on from jurisdiction to the request from Advocate Teffo to write to the NDPP to have the charges dropped. We're now at the point where he's now submitting a letter from accused number 3. That is Mtokozi Simncube, who's accused of being the actual person who actually shot and killed Senzo Meyiwa. He's being held at the Khosi prison. And the letter that Teffo has submitted to the court has been written by accused number 3, and he's basically detailing the adverse conditions that he's being subjected to at that particular establishment. And what we understand is that this is not the first time the defense is raising this issue. In fact, it was raised back right back in April when we started this trial. In fact, many of the role players in this particular matter have been alluding to the fact that their lives are at risk, they're being threatened. The accused themselves saying they're being beaten and tortured in prison. And so the letter, from what we understand, is now also just giving us more in terms of what the accused says he is being subjected to at Khosi. And from what we understand, from what Teffo was submitting, Maseko, is that he's saying that at this point they're not really requesting for the accused to be moved, but they are seeing that the treatment he's receiving at Khosi is not the same as the one he was receiving at Sun City, where he was originally being kept before being moved to Khosi. So now there's been an agreement that the state, as well as Advocate Mshololo for accused number 5, will be given copies of this letter so they can be able to have sight of it. Then it can be submitted to the court, but also before the court can actually hear any kind of application around this letter, correctional services as well is going to have to be updated and alerted about this letter, and the head of correctional services or the head of the Khosi prison is then going to have to indicate some kind of a response, and this is what we have adjourned for. We know that State Prosecutor George Baloyi is now making a phone call to either the head of correctional services or the head of the Khosi prison to email them this letter, have them read it, and then indicate whether anything can be done immediately, because what's really at stake here, especially for Judge Maumela, who insists that he wants this matter resolved as soon as possible, is the survival, to quote the judge, the survival of accused number 3. Advocate Teffo has on a number of occasions said that there's a possibility that he may not survive the duration of this trial, so it's very prudent that his concerns around safety are addressed as soon as possible.
And Slee, what now happens, just for us to understand, what now happens to the original application that brought us to court today in terms of jurisdiction? Does that now fall out the window? Is Teffo deciding that he won't go ahead with it because he's waiting for a response from the NDPP?
The issue of jurisdiction at this point is null and void. It's neither here nor there, especially if you look at the processes in terms of the Criminal Procedure Act. It states in one of the sections that as soon as an accused pleads before a court, they inadvertently give that court jurisdiction to preside over the matter. So Judge Maumela was saying that he believes, or he thinks that Advocate Teffo may have abandoned that application because the Criminal Procedure Act is very clear in terms of jurisdiction, and the North Gauteng High Court having jurisdiction really to hear this matter, saying that his clients have already pleaded. If there was an issue around jurisdiction, it should have been heard before the clients pled to the charges, but because that has already happened, then automatically the North Gauteng High Court gets that jurisdiction. But when it comes to the correspondence between the NDPP and Teffo with regards to his demands for charges to be dropped, we're still awaiting then a response or a decision from the NDPP. What Teffo has told the court is that he does have confirmation that his letter is receiving attention by the NDPP.
All right, Slindelo Masigani, we'll catch up with you a little bit later on in terms of this particular trial. Like I said to Slee, it just keeps growing legs, and there's always just new applications from the defense. Let's take you to